But let's start with our keynote presentation. And the next speaker is our keynote speaker, Rajesh Patnaik. I can see Rajesh is already on the screen. Hey, Rajesh. Rajesh is a partner and principal based for PwC, Philadelphia office. Rajesh Patnaik has 24 years of experience within consultancy, technology, and IT. He currently leads the product development for digital operation offering within PwC in the US. It's a vast experience, and if I have to read up all the different areas, Rajesh, you have been working in, I could stand here quite a long time. I don't want to do that. But just for our followers, just so you know, Rajesh has been working with software, with product development, with manufacturing, industrial manufacturing, IT. So it's all over with different areas and has an extensive knowledge about those challenges that we are going to address. With that, Rajesh, I would like to hand over to you. Please, very warm welcome as a keynote speaker on our first day track.
Thank you, Shahid. Can you folks all hear me okay?
Yes, we do.
Seems like you can. Can someone pull up the presentation? Perfect. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much, Shahid. And great conversation, great opening session by Yogan. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. This is the beauty of having a virtual session. We are all in different time zones. All of us can attend at our convenient, time frame. Warm welcome to all of you from warm and sunny Philadelphia, which is great. Early in the morning at 8:45. So as Shahid said, I am based out of Philadelphia. I lead the work that we do in digital product operations within PwC. I'm excited to be part of this session, and very, very happy to be the keynote speaker for this great summit, which has some fantastic sessions lined up and presenters for the next couple of days, including today. So from my perspective, what I really want to do is set a context to the summit from a broader standpoint. As Shahid mentioned, what we wanted to cover at this stage is give a very high level perspective as to what CLM is all about and how does it really drive business performance for companies. I think Yogan set the stage very well in terms of laying out some of the critical challenges that we are seeing out there in the market, and how capabilities like a CLM in the broader context of the various other capabilities that exist in the enterprise drives value. So what I'll do is just move over to the next slide, which gives a little bit of a context of how I'd like to use probably the next 20 minutes or so, and then if there is time, we can have some Q&A, and I'm more than happy to address questions or any key points of discussions that people may want to have. What I wanted to start off with is giving a general perspective as to what we see out there in the market from a digital transformation standpoint, how all these transformation trends align with CLM, how does configuration lifecycle management drive value across the value chain for organizations, all the way from concept to engineering to manufacturing to services. What are some of the key operational drivers that CLM enables, and what are some of the benefits that we have seen companies get from CLM? And finally, what I wanted to do was round off this conversation with the perspective of when you as companies are looking at implementing CLM as a capability, what are some of the key considerations you may want to keep in mind while you're going through this journey? So let me then flip over to the next slide. I think it looks like I've lost the connection. Oh, here we go. Perfect. Okay, good. So let me start with giving a perspective of what we have really seen in the market from an overall digital transformation perspective. We usually, as PwC, every year we run this flagship annual survey with the CEOs, wherein we get a pulse of the market. A couple of interesting things that came out as part of this survey this year. Firstly, we see that customers are asking for more and more differentiated, innovative products. So the customer need has become more and more complex. At the same time, customers do not want to compromise in terms of the quality of the products that we are delivering out there, products and services in the market. So clearly, it's there is a lot of micro segmentation out there in the market, more needs, more customer centricity in terms of the needs, and also importantly, what we are seeing is that there is a lot of push towards automation and digitization in terms of achieving some of these needs from a customer standpoint. So clearly, there is on one side we are seeing a lot of specific needs by customers. On the other side, we are seeing there are various enablers to achieve those needs, especially from a digitization standpoint. Now, if you really look, interestingly, from when we talk to many of the CEOs from the company standpoint, they look at one aspect which is both a concern and an opportunity, depending on the way you look at it. About 2/3 of the CEOs see the changing consumer behavior to be a concern as well as a challenge. So and it's very interesting to see as to the way they are actually looking at this is again from the fact that consumers are looking at more personalized solutions, and therefore there is a need to quickly adapt to those needs in the market and deliver them fast. So that's a big theme that we are seeing from a customer needs standpoint, and CEOs are really kind of grappling with what can we do to achieve this flexibility and the rapid change of needs that occurs in the market. So interestingly, as we went through this whole exercise, obviously, one of the key topics, especially during the pandemic, has been digitization. And there has been, as all of you obviously can relate to this very closely, there is a lot of emphasis in terms of digitization. There's a huge amount of investment. Most of the companies have at least spent 10% more than before in terms of investment on digitization, and with the focus on operational efficiency and responsiveness in the market. So clearly, there are multiple things that are happening out here, which kind of aligns with some of the early that came up in the market. That is from the customers, that is asking for more specific solutions that address their specific and not generalized solutions. And in order to this needs, there is a urge from companies in terms of being more responsive through specific investments on the digitization side of things, which drives operational efficiency and time to market. So given all these various trends, what I wanted to actually kind of flip over to is how does. Okay, can we move to the next slide? Perfect. Given these various capabilities, I wanted to actually talk about how does really CLM and in specific and in general product lifecycle management address the needs of the customer and what the CEOs are thinking of. From a very strategic standpoint, what we see is that the companies are looking for solutions which are very customer centric. Therefore, from a CLM standpoint, we are looking at a trend towards having more integrated products, as well as solutions which are wherein you have products which can be very modular in nature and quickly configured to different needs. So therefore, strategically, it's about building these various reusable modules of solutions and products that can quickly come together to create these solutions for the market. From a process standpoint, what we are noticing at this point in time is that people are looking for agile and flexible processes that can be quickly adapted in order to change your end products and solutions through the whole value chain, all the way from concept to engineer to manufacture to services. So clearly, that's a big theme that's coming up. And again, we see configuration lifecycle management as a capability helps you manage these things in an integrated manner end to end. From a solution standpoint, where we see CLM playing a very big role is the whole ecosystem of what I would say as the enterprise solutions to make this happen from concept to services, which starts all the way from CRM, CLM, PLM, ERP, MES, and QMS. So having this ecosystem is a key enabler in order to make this whole to make this transformation happen. And finally, the most important element that we always look at, and many of our companies really have a challenge in terms of addressing, is building an integrated vision for a single source of truth at the data layer, which enables you to maximize reuse at the same time minimize any rework in terms of changing your solutions for the needs of your customer. So clearly, across the whole pyramid, as you see on this particular slide, all the way from strategy to data, the role of configuration lifecycle management plays an important role to address some of the needs that we talked about, that we have seen out there in the market. And then now moving on to the next slide, I wanted to just give a perspective as to what we are talking about from a CLM standpoint. And as we mentioned before, when we look at configuration lifecycle management, we look at it all the way from concept to engineering to manufacturing and services, which essentially plays very closely with the whole digital thread and enables your an integrated story all the way from getting the needs from the market, conceiving the idea, and taking it all the way to launching your product in the market, and then finally servicing your product as it subsists in the market. So from an overall perspective, that's the end-to-end value chain that we would say CLM essentially kind of traverses. There are certain core capabilities that CLM brings to the fore in terms of supporting some of these areas. And in some areas, it is more of the integration capabilities of CLM with other solutions, like the ones that I mentioned before, the PLM, ERP, MES, and a few other solutions to enable the value capture across the whole value chain. I won't get into too much of detail on this particular slide because I know that there are specific sessions that are targeted towards each of these chevrons, and there will be good discussion on these topics then. But I wanted to lay it out from a broader standpoint as to how CLM really kind of is looked at from a holistic end-to-end perspective. Now, having said that, I wanted to touch upon, which is in the next slide, what are some of the key enablers that CLM brings from an operational standpoint, and what are some of the benefits that we have seen in the market from CLM? So, taking a step back from a operating lever standpoint, very strategically, the way we have seen CLM play out there in the market is in terms of helping build modularization of solutions. It helps enable platforming in terms of the products and solutions that you bring to the market. It gives you flexibility in terms of launching products faster in the market with a lot of reuse. At the same time, it also gives you efficiency in terms of addressing make to order and engineer to order kind of solutions because of the fact that you can quickly kind of configure some parts of your other solutions which exist in other products for creating a new product that can be launched in the market. So clearly, from a strategic standpoint, we see some of these key levers that CLM helps address. At a very operating level, we see CLM enable you to really ensure that you still focus on the single source of truth, ensure that there is product integrity in spite of the fact that you're bringing in a lot of flexibility in what you can release out there in the market. And therefore, you have the right balance between product quality, speed, and the overall cost in terms of addressing what the market needs. So from a benefit standpoint, we have typically seen companies get benefits which range between 10 to 40% in terms of faster time to market or operational efficiencies from a product development standpoint based on the use of CLM. So clearly, this is something which is catching up more and more. Initially, the thought was, okay, CLM probably, kind of pertains to CPQ, but now people do understand that that is only the tip of the spear. That's really where it starts. But where it really ends is how do you really use this to service your customers faster in the market once you have established products. So people are latching on to this whole value chain end-to-end story, and clearly we are seeing more and more benefits of companies who are using CLM again in the context of the larger ecosystem of PLM, ERP, MES, CRM, and QMS ecosystem. Now moving on to the next slide, what I wanted to touch upon is, given all these things that we mentioned about what CLM can bring in from a benefit standpoint, what are some of the levers and how CLM can be seen in the context of differentiation for various companies. If you as a company are looking at implementing CLM as a capability, I wanted to share a few thoughts in terms of what should we be thinking while we do this. First and foremost, I would definitely go back to the basic principle of customer centricity, right? So let's think of what is it that we want to achieve from configuration lifecycle management. So that should set the stage in terms of what should be the vision and what is the North Star that we want to achieve from a CLM standpoint. Now, based on this, I would then say that let's really focus on the what, how, and who in terms of making this real. So what should be really the scope of CLM? How should this really work in the context of the larger ecosystem? Who are the key people who should play a role in terms of building and implementing this capability within your business? So once we define it, you have the right charter in terms of what you're going to do, and then you can go about doing your actual execution of implementation of the capability. Once it comes to implementation, what we have seen that has worked really well across the various companies is the concept of having a very holistic, programmatic, approach in terms of implementation, wherein you look at CLM not just as an isolated capability, but look at it in the context of the larger ecosystem and how it really plays with the other solutions that exist in your enterprise. As I mentioned before, the real value that we have seen in companies is when you look at this as part of the bigger story, and therefore it can be the tip of the spear for you to make to extract value out of other solutions. And looking at it from that standpoint, as you are executing a CLM implementation program, becomes very important to make it successful. Finally, I'd like to call out an aspect which is very close to me. Ultimately, I feel you can have capabilities, you can have processes, you can have solutions. Ultimately, it's the hearts and minds of the people who really use them that makes or breaks the deal in terms of the value that you create. So I would not underestimate the importance of change management as part of this whole exercise. Identify all your key stakeholders, ensure that you have the right case for change, ensure you have the right value case in terms of why the cost and benefit trade-off in terms of why this is needed, and have a very, very well thought out and early plan for communication and change management as you go through this journey. So these are some of the things I would actually say that are important from an overall standpoint with respect to looking at implementation of CLM capabilities within your organization. Now, going to the last slide. I just wanted to kind of take a step back and really talk through some of the key points that I highlighted. Couple of things that I want to kind of leave you with as part of this discussion. One, clearly there is a need in the market to drive more customer-centric solutions. There are a lot of complexities that we have seen over the last couple of years in order to make this happen. There is a trend of digitization that is making this more and more real. People see digital solutions and automation not just being enablers, but probably being strategic advantages in terms of making this happen. So clearly, there is that need in the market, that shift that is happening out there in the market. Configuration lifecycle management is evolving to become a very critical part of everyone's ecosystem in terms of making this happen. It is in the context of the larger, as I call it, the CRM, PLM, CLM, ERP, MES, and QMS play, if you think of it as an ecosystem of various capabilities that work together, all the way from concept to service. And when you are thinking of there are enough cases out there in the market that show the value of CLM and success stories. I'm sure we are talking about more of them as we go through from a couple of the clients who have implemented CLM solutions. And finally, when you go through this journey of CLM, I would say that start from the basics, understand why are you going for a configuration lifecycle management solution, build a case with all the stakeholders as to why is it needed, how does it fit into the larger ecosystem, and plan it effectively so that it is a success and there is the return on investment from these solutions is actually kind of felt as we have seen out there in the market. So with this, I wanted to pause here, and this is the end of my session in terms of what I wanted to talk about.